Namaste, brothers and sisters of yoga family. Are you a yoga lover? Do you like practicing yoga? Do you love yoga philosophy? And are you interested about the real history of yoga based on facts and not myths? As a yoga teacher, indeed it is important to learn the factual history of yoga. And if you are interested about the history of yoga, then this is the video for you. Keep watching. Many interesting facts are about to be revealed. The scriptural tradition of ancient India clearly identified yoga as a major school of philosophy. The authentic text that enlightens the yogic wisdom for many of us today was once compiled by Patanjali in the 3rd century of Common Era. Some of the sutras in it also dates back to the 1st century, as mentioned in a book called Encyclopedia of Indian Philosophy. To ease the understanding of this philosophy, Yogi Vyasa wrote commentaries on the Yoga Sutras somewhere around 5th century of Common Era. Many other yogic scholars also made an attempt to write the commentaries on Yoga Sutras, which is dated back from 9th century to 20th century approximately. Yoga is very closely related to another major school of philosophy, which is called Sankhya school of philosophy. It is also believed that yoga philosophy is an experimental implementation of this Sankhya school of philosophy. Nevertheless, yoga as philosophy and practice has influenced not only the religions like Hinduism, but it has also influenced other religions like Buddhism, Jainism, and its significant impact can also be seen in many epics, culture, medicine, language, and literature. So even before this yoga emerged as philosophy, it existed as a Vedic, Tantric, and a shamanic traditional lifestyle. Yoga essentially emerged in two distinct dimensions from there on. One as a philosophy and the other as an experimental and experiential practice. These two dimensions of yoga together is what we today know as yoga. The names used by Patanjali in his chapters in the Yoga Sutra also suggest the same. Much before yoga was classified as Hatha, Ashtanga, and Vinyasa, during the good old golden era of yoga, there were just 3 major traditions of yoga. One, the Sankhya tradition of yoga, which was propagated by a yogi called Vindhyavasan. And then the second one was the Buddhist tradition of yoga propagated by Vasubandhu. And the third one is none other than the yoga tradition of Patanjali that was based on psychological experiences and experiments. To summarize the chronology and to make it easier to understand the history, I would say yoga was much of a lifestyle during the Vedic period somewhere around 2500 years ago. Then around 400 BC, the Buddhist philosophy emerges, and the influence of Vedic lifestyle can be attributed to the Buddha's philosophy. Somewhere in between 200 BC and 1st century Common Era, Sankhya school of philosophy gets established, and somewhere around the same period, influence of Sankhya on Buddhist philosophy can be noted in the Buddhist text called Shashti Tantra. During the 3rd century, Sankhya school of philosophy, as I said before, it has a lot to do with yoga, becomes popular due to the influence of a book called Sankhya Karika, which was authored by Ishwara Krishna. Later period of 3rd century and early years of 4th century is considered to be the period when Patanjali must have compiled the Yoga Sutras. And most amazing part comes here. Somewhere in the 10th century, someone called Al-Biruni from Iran reveals the influence of yoga in the Middle East too, through his book which is named as Kitab Patanjala. Influence of Tantra philosophy on yoga led to the emergence of Hatha Yoga somewhere around 11th century. And from there on, the medieval history of yoga begins, which we will discuss in our next video. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel and to get automatic updates on our new post. And yes, at the end of this video, you can see a slide with the chronology that I discussed on yoga history, so that you can make notes and use them to share with your friends, students, and indeed other yoga teachers. So until then, for the next meet, Namaste from Yogacharya Arvind.